Lee,
Present.
Councilmember Pappen,
Here.
Councilmember Oliva,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schneider,
Here.
Mayor Holliber.
Present.
All members of the council are present.
Okay, we have one item on the agenda. This is a existing business regarding the animal control services for with the County of San Mateo for Peninsula Humane Society. Do we have a presentation on this?
Yes,
Or
Mr.
report?
Mayor, Angela Lewis will be providing a quick presentation.
Yes, so Mayor and council members, as you recall, we had this item on our June 9th agenda. And at that time, there were some concerns and issues raised by members of the council regarding the Peninsula Humane Society and some of the issues that they were noting with the Humane Society. And at that time, the motion did not pass, but since then, we found that we do need to continue having animal control services in Millbrae, and therefore we've had to bring this special meeting forward so that we could have someone from the San Mateo County give you some background information and move this forward so that we could hopefully have the resolution adopted this evening. As you recall, on June 9th, the mayor appointed council members Oliva and Pappen as an ad hoc subcommittee to bring these issues forward to the county and to write a letter to the Board of Supervisors. Since that council meeting earlier this week, we had a meeting with Lori Morton-Fizel with the animal control, and she's the animal control and licensing manager and chief deputy registrar for the county health. And she is on the call today to answer any questions that you may have also of the current agreement, the amendment that we have, and then of course the RFP that the county is working on for a new provider, possibly new vendor and new services. So this completes just my brief presentation, but wanted to open it up to see if there were questions from the council and also to introduce Lori and let you know that she is available to make a brief presentation to you and to also answer questions that you may have.
Okay, and perhaps we can have a report out from the subcommittee as to the meeting and if some of these issues have been addressed. I don't know who would like to take it, Councilwoman Pappen or Councilwoman Oliva?
You want me to go first, Gina?
Go ahead.
So actually, if Lori's on the phone or on the Zoom call, I just want to thank her very much for taking the time. She took quite a long time with us and explained all of the process by which the Humane Society and the SPCA are divided up with different tasks. And she actually sent, I don't know who got the chart, but there is a chart out there that will show how everything is divided up. And basically not everything is funded by the county, and some of it is just partially funded by the county. And it was very interesting and very confusing. So I think that it's good that we did have the call and we did raise up the questions that we had with regard to how this is all structured. A little bit back to that, I had called Supervisor Pine and told him that prior to him finding out, told him that we had some issue with the funding, and he had expressed how the process was going to work as well, confirmed by Lori. And I think that what I took from the conversation is that everybody said, Millbrae, that you made your point. You made a very good point. The salaries for that everybody read the headlines, I know. The salaries for the CEO is somewhat hard to believe for a lot of us on council. And also the fact is that they are going to they have an RFP in place. Millbrae's gotten the opportunity through the conversations from Lori that we can have somebody to represent in the process of looking at the RFPs. And bottom line is there's not a prayer that we would be able to, as a city, provide the services needed at this time on our own. So yes, it would be a recommendation after my subcommittee work that we would proceed with the contract. And I would say also it's been eye-opening, and I would hope that things do get changed in the organizational chart that that you can. I think everybody got an email from that Angela sent out. Take a look at it, and it's very complicated. I don't know, Gina. Do you have anything to add?
Yes. Thank you. And I think Lori can clarify several of the items that we discussed. We discussed more transparency and how the funding is spent. We discussed our issues with and concerns about what the staff was being paid, what vans they were using. Would the animals be safe in those vans? We discussed kind of the operations that they were currently going through and our concerns throughout the process. The county, we were informed, and I'm sure Lori will fill in the gaps here, is working on a new RFP that may make this a lot more competitive as we go out there. The county has a brand new building, which they are operating out there. And I think this is better where Lori can fill in the gaps moving forward here. We have no real choice until the RFP goes out. And we have also been offered to help on the, in the kind of advising on the development of the RFP as it moves forward. So I think it's a good time for Lori to step in.
I think one of the interesting figures
Somebody
that
on an iPhone seems to have some echoing.
is that me?
Can mute themselves if they're not speaking. Thought it was the iPhone, whoever that is, but okay. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
The budget from the county is $6 million, of which the SPCA gets 40% of. And the 40% of that goes to fund and on the chart, you can see what their tasks are. But yet they also go out for fundraising too. So there's lots of donations, and there's a lot of our county funds, and it's a nonprofit. So I think that was the part that Councilmember Pappen just mentioned, and I think the word was transparency, and I think that it was very, very important that we did question that, and I don't think any of us knew that, and it was never presented to us. So the fact is, the CEO of the nonprofit makes a ton of money, and in these times where we're trying to look at budgeting and cutting corners or cutting anything we can, it's a little bit difficult to accept. Yet, like Councilmember Pappen.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure, you know. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, you know, thank you very much for your service on the subcommittee. And I'm sure with the RFP, there will likely, you know, we have, let's see, Ms. Morton Fazell on the line, but I would imagine that a salary survey would be included as part of the process to see if the executive or much greater than what other similar nonprofit executive salaries are. Ms. Schneider, do you have a comment or a question?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Were you asking me?
Yes, I saw your hand was raised.
Okay, I didn't know if Ms. Morton Fazell was going to give a presentation first.
Okay,
And can I just
Ms.
get
Morton Fazell?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, as well as council members and city manager. I appreciate the opportunity to come forward and talk to you about the process. We are requesting an amendment for the Peninsula Humane Society contract, as well as each city's contract with the county. The way the contracting works is the 20 cities contracts with the county, and in turn, the county contracts with the Peninsula Humane Society for their services to provide animal control and sheltering. They do have a separate humane society, which is in Burlingame. It's the Peninsula Humane Society and SPCA. They operate out of that, the nonprofit side. So the things up there at the Lantos Center are paid by donations. I think as I think Gina had mentioned, or Anna, is that we now have a county shelter, which is on county land owned by the county, and that's where the vendor will operate. The reason that we need this extension is so we can put together the final pieces of the RFP, the request for proposal. The plan is to continue working on the RFP and release it in October or November, in hopes that we can get a vendor, whether it be the Peninsula Humane Society or another entity, to come in and begin negotiations in January or February. We do have currently 6 cities represented on the request for proposal team, and I welcome Millbrae to become a part of that. The one thing I think you had mentioned is about the salary survey and the president's salary. The contract does not delineate the amount of money that will be paid to the nonprofit staff at this time. I don't know if it will in the future, because again, they are a vendor to the county and the cities. As I had mentioned to the committee, as we can go in with as big of ask as we want for the contract. I agree that there are several things that need to change, transparency being one of them, as well as performance measures. We need stronger performance measures. We need, in my opinion, more services for the city. With that said, if we add a lot of more services and items in the request for proposal, the cost could go up for the contract. Right now we're at $6 million. Millbrae is, this coming year will be $170,000. That'll be your portion of the cost for animal control services. And it covers a wide range. It covers, of course, picking up stray dogs, confined dogs, dangerous animals, vicious animals, quarantines, sheltering. I mean, whenever they pick up an animal anywhere in the county, that animal's taken to the shelter and provided food, care, and veterinary care. So it's a very comprehensive program, but I agree with everyone that it's time for a request for proposal. The unknown is if there is somebody out there that'll bid. My plan, and I've already collected names of all of the surrounding counties, animal control agencies, all of the rescues, and when the request for proposal is ready to go out, I will be sending out an email to all of them, letting them know that it's on the public purchase site and they can bid for the contract. If there's any questions or clarifications, I can do that now. Yes, Ann?
First of all, thank you so much. And I think when it comes to the salary discussion, having worked in the nonprofit sector, it's the range of the salary between the CEO and the frontline workers. And if there can be some parity or discussion of that. And that's been a discussion nationally for years and years, that in the private sector, that the CEO salaries are getting to be 500 times what the people on the street are getting paid. So that's what I look at on that. And I understand if a portion of the CEO salary is being paid by by donations. I'm a monthly donor to the Peninsula Humane Society. So I actually love what they do. And just to give them a couple of shout outs, we had our first disaster workshop last November. They were right there with us with the information of how to take care of your animals during a disaster. I'm a former Red Cross disaster volunteer. I've been to the old shelter taking photos of animals who've been separated in times of fire. So, I mean, I think there's some terrific employees there. My concern is just, my main concern, and I don't know if you can build this into the RFP, is the personal protection equipment. When I met with them about 2 years ago, the employees who were getting paid less than, I think it was $13 then, had to go buy their own bulletproof vests. They had to buy their own shoes. They had to pretty much buy everything. I think they also had to pay for their own training. And it seems to me that you cannot live on $15 an hour. So if there's some language that you can have in there, and I don't want to be telling the other cities that costs might go up, but you know, we have to be leaders in making sure that people have a living wage. So that would be my main concern, and that the ratio between the CEO and everybody else can't be that huge on that. And I complained as a monthly donor saying that there has to be parity there. But again, I had a skunk in my backyard that had mange. The Humane Society was right there to take care of the poor little thing. I am very grateful for the services that they provide, and they have always provided good service.
Thank you. I've taken that note. I think as far as the comparison of the salaries, that would be a county council discussion, because they are a private nonprofit. So their board is the one that sets that salary range. As far as equipment, I'm not quite sure where that information came from. Each officer is purchased a bulletproof vest. They have a uniform allowance each year that they can buy boots, utility belts, uniforms. So I'm not sure where that came from. I have taken a follow-up note, and I will follow up with the senior vice president to make sure that is happening.
Very good.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
My apologies. No, go ahead.
Because the shelter's in the final stages of the build out, I am at the shelter weekly. So I can also meet with them. Every officer that I see has state-of-the-art equipment, bulletproof vests, all the equipment they need to perform animal control. Even when we moved all of the items from the old shelter to the new shelter, they have state-of-the-art equipment to perform their job. But I will take that as a note and follow up with them.
Well, and I think it was a few years ago, and I know that that's what the union at that time was talking about. And I talked to employees at that time during that action on there. So I appreciate that. One other thing, the Humane Society plays an important role in disasters, even economic downturns. I don't know where that might fit in with the RFP, but you know, their workload ebbs and flows with the economy. The recession of 2008, all of the shelters around the world, probably around the world, were hit heavy. So I thank them for everything that they did to keep animals alive for that and through that really tough time. And all my animals have been adopted from the shelter. So, and they work, again, just so that you know, we have a couple of cat rescue places here in Millbrae, and they work closely with the Humane Society and are very appreciative of that.
That's great to hear. They are disaster workers in any event. We have 3 Connex trailers at the Humane Society, or at the new county shelter, some of which is owned by the Humane Society and the other is owned by the county. So in the event of a disaster, knock on wood, we don't have any coming up, we would have the ability to set up a mobilized shelter.
Excellent.
And it would all work through the county EOC is how it would work.
Yeah, there's been a lot of improvement since Katrina in how we handle our animals in a disaster. So thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, I had a couple of follow-up questions on that. The first one, the facility on Rollins Road in Burlingame, is that owned by the county or owned by Peninsula Humane Society?
That's owned by Peninsula Humane Society. That was built with donor dollars. The shelter at 12 Airport Boulevard in San Mateo, Prior to it being torn down, the building was owned by the Humane Society. The land was owned by the county. Now, with the new shelter, it is a county facility and county land.
Okay. And as you explained, the adoption services are separate from this contract, or not included in this contract.
Correct. That was negotiated before I came into position in 2016. That was negotiated back, I think it was 2014, 15. The president, Ken White, at that time said he could save the city and county money if he took over the adoption piece. I've been asked a couple different times, what happens if another vendor takes over the contract? We would be able to run, or they would be able to run adoptions out of the current new building. And I've also spoke with Mike Callaghy. We could do storefront adoptions. We won't have a problem with that. We can make sure that adoptions happen at Coyote Point.
Okay.
And that would generate money.
It generates, it would have to add extra staff, yes, to do the adoption piece.
Okay. And as part of, the new RFP, could that be, could the salary issue be included in some way so that, if the agency's president has a salary over, I don't know, pick a number, 300,000, 350,000, something, the proposal would be deemed non-responsive?
I would have to ask county council. I don't believe in the RFPs that I've worked on. I think they've had to put in it would meet the cost of living or the amount that the county minimum, but I would have to take that to council. But I could get back to you on that.
But in terms of the maximum though.
But then
Right, because again, it's a nonprofit that's bidding. So I don't know where the county laws reside as far as us overseeing the salaries of the nonprofit. So the workers that are actually performing the tasks are not county employees, but
Right,
I have a note
understood.
here and I will circle back with our county council.
Okay.
And if it can be added, absolutely. I have no problem adding it. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Let's see, Councilman Lee, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Can I
second
just
that.
ask first? Can I ask first if there was any public comment received on this item?
There is no public comment for this item.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Lee, a second from Vice Mayor Schneider. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilwoman Oliva had her hands up.
I just had a quick comment with regards to salary. You have to, in order to, I think, more than county council for salary on the RFP, it would probably have to be in the bylaws to the board, because the board could approve any increase of salary. So,
That is true, but we have no control over a nonprofit board.
so that's what,
Again, it's a nonprofit that is bidding for the contract. Just like if San Francisco Animal Care and Control decided to take over the contract,
absolutely.
we could not have authority over their salaries, or Santa Clara, or if there was a Humane Society in the East Bay. That's governed by their board. But again, I've taken that and I will see, where we can put that in if we can.
That would be my point. To put a salary cap on an RFP it's meaningless, because a board could increase it. It would be up to the board. So
there could be limitations in terms of how much, the county contract funds, the executive's salary, and if the donors, potentially could backfill that in some way.
yeah.
But I think we need to be clear as to, how our tax dollars are being used, and, how much is being used on essential services versus executive pay.
Yeah, historically, the president's salary was not paid but paid by the contract. It was put into this past contract. The committee, which did have 4 cities represented, as well as the county manager, agreed to pay 40% of Ken White's salary. As I explained to the committee, I agree going forward, unless he's working daily on the contract, we shouldn't be paying him. For instance, his senior vice president, the operations director, I'm dealing with every day on issues. We should be paying them. But if for a president, if he's not, helping, we're not working, then I agree. So we will definitely put that in the RFP.
Mr. Mayor, I know there's a motion on the floor, but just real quick, one of the ways to do that, and I'm glad that one of our council members will be involved with Lori and her group on the RFP, but better define levels of service, better performance measures, and that type of thing. That the whole process is tightened up quite a bit, and then through that process, caps on allocation of funding as the council has mentioned. So I think with an representative of this council on the RFP committee, we can certainly, craft an RFP that could achieve some of this objective.
Okay. All right. Let's. We have a motion and a second on the table. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Councilmember Oliva.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schneider,
Aye.
Mayor Holliber.
Aye.
The resolution authorizing the city manager to execute amendment to the agreement with the County of San Mateo for animal control services to extend the agreement for 1 year is unanimously approved.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone who worked hard on this, and we will adjourn, and we will be back on Tuesday evening, June 23rd. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.